I knew the wall first as a rumor in the dust. An order shouted down a line of men, a drumbeat in the mountains, a ribbon of tamped earth cutting the sky where no road had any right to go. They said it would stitch the empire's torn hem, that the first August emperor willed a single breath to run from the eastern sea into the stone lungs of the west. I did not believe in walls then. I believed in my spear, in bread, in sleep. But belief is soft clay. Press it hard enough and it keeps whatever shape the state demands. We marched north under General Meng Tian, past villages that smelled of millet and smoke, into hills that smelled of iron rain. The carts groaned like old men. Prisoners in black caps trudged ahead of us on ropes, their ankles bitten raw. I had fought in the campaigns that flattened the 6 kingdoms and made them kneel with one surname. When the banners of Qin covered the rivers, I thought my soldiering was finished. But the emperor had other borders in mind, the kind a man cannot cross without freezing or starving or breaking his neck on slate. "You will build," the officer said, handing me a hammer instead of a spear. "You will garrison. Your hands are now stones." The first time I put my palm against the wall, it was warm from afternoon sun, grainy with the grit of rammed earth. We built with what we had, earth packed between boards until it rang like a drum. Stones dragged down goat paths on sledges that cried, wood cut from stunted trees that seemed offended to be trees at all. 1,000 hands beat the same rhythm. Shovel, lift, pour, tamp. Our feet learned the slope of the mountains the way a sailor's learns the curve of deck planks. In the thin air, breath was a coin you paid for every step. "Faster!" shouted Supervisor Rua, a man with a voice like a whip. "The wind itself is our enemy. Beat the wall harder than the wind in winter." He had 20 men under his rod and eyes that never slept. If a prisoner faltered, the rod kissed his back. If a soldier faltered, the rod kissed him twice to keep example. "I was a farmer," he told me once between orders, as if that explained the cruelty. Crops do not pity the hand that sows them. They only grow for the hand that hurts the earth enough. At night, when the fires cracked and the stars looked like nails hammered into black lacquer, we listened to the mountains talking, loose stones ticking, the scurry of foxes, the long, low animal of wind. We traded stories like rations, of wives left with winter wood stacked and counted, of sisters who would not marry until the wall was finished. "Then she will never marry?" I said, and did not mean to be cruel. Someone always spoke of ghosts. In the morning we found a man who had frozen in his sleep, sitting like a thinking scholar. Snow gathered on his brows. The ground was too hard to dig, so we built a cairn of unshaped stones and put his bowl on top. The wall does not eat the dead, whatever poets say. The mountains do. We learned to measure the world in tamped layers. 2 men to hold the formwork, 2 to pour, 4 to ram, the rest to lift, to haul, to curse. Our hands blistered and then hardened, the skin turning to old leather that creaked when clenched. When the foreman tested a course with an iron rod, he listened for music. A tight, bright sound meant well-rammed earth. A dull thud meant do it again. We did it again. The wall grew the way a winter beard grows, slow, insistent, with a humorless patience. From the ridgelines, the empire fell away in cloth folds. Valleys blue with distance, streams like silver threads, villages stitched to hillsides. On good days, we ate millet porridge thickened with bean, a luxury that made us talkative. On bad days, we sucked ice and chewed dried radish until our teeth ached. The latrines were pits hard as pottery. A doctor with hands stained by herbs tended our feet first. A man without feet is no use to a wall. He burned my blisters with a copper needle and made me promise not to die without permission. "Your emperor needs your breath," he said, "more than your bones." The first attack came like a joke from the wind. We were raising a beacon tower, hoisting timber with ropes that bit our palms bloody, when the horses screamed. Arrows fell with the matter-of-factness of rain, knocking dust from the parapet so gently it seemed a jest. Then a prisoner's head snapped back and the jest was finished. We crouched behind half-born merlins and searched the slope for riders. They scattered like black parsley on brown hills, wheeling, shouting, bows bright as fish. Our own bows answered, thin and angry. I watched a rider twist and fall with a motion too graceful for death. The supervisor blew into a hollow horn, and men ran to pile brush in the tower's throat. Fire licked, hesitated, then spoke in smoke. The tower coughed black, and from the next ridge over, another tower coughed in reply. A chain of throats, a language made of air and heat. I thought then that the wall was less a line than a net for rumors of danger. After the alarm, work resumed because work always resumes. We patched the bark of the tower with mud to keep the fire from eating it. We cut new pegs, sharpened stakes, cursed our luck, counted our arrows. That evening Meng Tian himself rode the line with a retinue that looked less like soldiers than like a moving piece of the state. He was not a man who smiled with his mouth. He nodded at stone, not at men. "You are the fingers," he said, in a voice like cooling bronze. "The wall is the hand. The hand will hold the north. If the fingers break, the hand is still a hand. Understand." We understood because there was nothing else to understand. There were lighter days. When the snow softened and the wind fell into sleep, the mountains had a hush like a temple after incense fades. We stole moments to be men instead of stones. I carved the character for home in the side of a tamping beam where no foreman would notice. A prisoner from Chu sang a song about a river that swallows the moon. My friend Jie, whose laugh was like the cluck of a hen, traded a spare pair of straw sandals for 2 sticks of sweet dried yam and gave one to me without ceremony. "If I live to eat this," he said, "I live." He ate it that evening, smiling with his eyes half closed as if tasting a memory. Jie died 3 weeks later under a load of wet stone when the sledge skidded and the rope snapped and the mountain took back its gift of gravity. We laid him beside the path with his hands folded over his chest and a pebble on each eyelid to keep him from watching us go. Supervisor Ruo wrote his name with charcoal on a plank and jammed it into the cairn. I put my yam wrapper there too, because I had nothing else to give. That night I dreamed the wall bent down to pick Jie up, as a mother bends to a child, and when I woke I wanted to laugh at my own foolishness and weep at it too. In summer the wall wore a skin of dust. In winter it grew ribs of frost that clung to its shadowed side all day. Sometimes, at dusk, the line of it turned the color of old blood. We thought of the eastern sea then, far beyond the last beacon where the line must dip its feet into salt. We thought of the western deserts where the line must navigate a map written in thirst. We spoke of the king who called himself first and the men with brushes who would grind our days into characters small as ant legs. We spoke of nothing at all. Silence is also a tool. There were those who said the wall was a curse, an emperor's paranoia stacked into hills, and those who said it was a blessing, a roofless house large enough for a nation to sit in. I had no philosophy that could survive hunger. But standing on a fresh course at sundown, when the light slid like oil along the parapet and the ridges flamed, I saw how a line could persuade a mountain to kneel a little. I saw how 1,000 small obediences could become a large defiance. The wall did not so much shout as refuse to move. One autumn we worked a section that had to leap a ravine. Bridges are another kind of wall, horizontal arrogance where vertical arrogance will not do. We cut terraces into the shale with picks that flung sparks and cursed the slope as if it could blush. Ropes sang, pulleys squealed, men pressed their shoulders to stone. A gust took a plank and made a sail of it, and for a breath I saw it hover like a thought no one had yet spoken. Then it tumbled, and a man with it, handsome Lee with a birthmark on his neck shaped like a bean. We wrote his name, too. We ran out of planks to write names on, then found more planks. Messages crawled along the line like patient ants. Rebels in the south, a magistrate punished, a new law, a comet. The comet was what men loved to speak of. "A broom sweeping the sky," said an old officer. "Bad for kings." We laughed, careful not to look up, because to look is to admit you care. That winter the emperor sent edicts colder than the wind. New grain quotas, harder penalties, longer lists of names. Men in black caps became men in no caps, then men in no names. The wall kept a straight back and said nothing. I envied its patience. I envied its certainty. When my turn came to descend to the valley for supplies, I passed through a village sewn to a slope with paths like red thread. A woman with hair the color of old rope poured me hot water and hid her eyes with her sleeve when I thanked her with too much gratitude. Her child fingered the edge of my sleeve as if it were a thought he wanted to borrow. "Is it true?" she asked, still not looking. "That from the top you can see the whole world?" I said yes, because from that height you can see your own breath, and what else is the world? In the 5th year of my service, my father died 3 provinces away, and I missed the morning window by 2 months. In letters I promised myself I would burn at home, but the wind took the ash from my tongue and smuggled it toward the north. I began to talk to the wall then. I used the old words my mother used on jars she could not open. "Come on, stubborn one." I laid my palm on its cold where the sun never reached, and it offered me a steadiness I had not known I needed. I thought of it as an old ox, patient, unkillable, simple in its wants. The day we finished our longest stretch was not different from any other except that the supervisor did not shout, and the men did not pretend not to notice. We ate until our bellies hurt. Someone produced a flute of bone. Someone else made a drum of a water skin and a wooden bowl, and we thumped a tune clumsy as new boots. A prisoner told a joke about a mask seller who sold the same face to the whole village, and no one complained because they were glad to have a face at all. We laughed until our ribs hurt. In the morning the wall was longer by 1 night of laughter, which is a kind of mortar. Years passed like caravans, visible from far off, vanishing while you still listened for them. The riders who once tested us learned the rhythm of our signal fires and, like wolves, knew when we slept. We did not sleep. The empire shifted its weight on the chair we built it. The first emperor died. The news came up the line as a whisper wrapped in grease and rice. Beware, eat, beware. Rebellions flowered and were cut. The wall stones did not care who pushed them into place or who later leaned on them with maps and claims. They only cared for gravity and frost. I am an old man now, though the mirror will tell you I am only 40. On clear mornings, the wall is a stroke of ink that refuses to fade. On fog mornings, it is a thought I had once and cannot quite recover. When I walk the parapet at dawn, I see footprints of foxes, claw marks of birds, the little offerings the wind makes, twigs, feathers, the husks of insects. I run my hand along the tamped earth and feel every man who pounded it into attention. I name some of them aloud, gently, because names return a little dignity to the dust that solders our boots. The wall answers with its usual silence, a silence so complete you hear your own blood rehearsing tomorrow. Do I believe in walls now? I believe in the hands that lift, the hands that tamp, the hands that bury the dead and then keep working. I believe in the humble arithmetic of layers. One course, then another. One season's breath hardened into another's. I believe in the small mercy of a beam wedged true, the moral clarity of a line that says, "Here you may not pass." I believe the wall is not the emperor's, nor the general's, nor even the state's. It belongs to the weather that tests it and the generations who will walk it, marry on it, cry on it, throw stones from it, scratch their initials into it when no one is looking. On my last day with the garrison, I climbed the tower we raised in my first year. It smelled of ash and old smoke and mice. I lit a small fire in the pan and watched the smoke coil up through the mouth as if reluctant to leave. From ridge to ridge, the line ran straighter than thought and more stubborn than my own regrets. The mountains did not kneel. They accepted a hand laid on their shoulders. I pressed my palm to a brick the color of dried blood and felt the sun in it, long after the sun had set. A wall is a promise you make to people you will never meet. We made ours with hammers and hunger, with songs and curses, with frost cracks in our backs and laughter in our mouths. If you ever walk these stones in a century I cannot imagine, and the wind tastes of iron and sage, lay your hand where mine is now and you will feel it. The tremor of 1,000 small obediences refusing, all together, to break.